Good afternoon to all listening on radio, TV, on the internet, and persons who are overseas, in particular persons from the diaspora and persons who are unfortunately got trapped overseas wanting to return home. And just to say that the COVID-19 task force has been working assiduously to look at reviewing the protocols as well as refining the protocols in accordance to the Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 13 regulations. And permit me to refer to the regulations to highlight that in section number 11, restriction on international travel, for the purposes of preventing, controlling, and suppressing the spread of the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 with immediate effect, A, all airports, including private airports and fixed base operations, shall be closed to incoming international flights, except with the prior written permission of the airport's authorities in consultation with the chief medical officer. Now, it is in this context that we seek to look at the repatriation process, and we want to highlight some of the improvements that you can expect effective immediately. So first, I would start with a warning. Do not attempt to travel to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis without prior approval, as we would have made reference earlier to the regulations. However, just to note that to facilitate this process, we have looked at digitizing the repatriation process, and you can access the form on the covid19.gov.can website. If you have any questions regarding repatriation process, please email us at covid19taskforce@gov.can. Next. Please note that all persons returning to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis will be subject to a mandatory 14 days quarantine in a government-designated or pre-approved quarantine facility. As you look at the form, you would note that the incoming travelers to St. Kitts and Nevis are required to complete the form. There are highlights in terms of an asterisk, highlighting the required fields that persons would have to complete. Please note that all information that is provided will be kept in strict confidence, kept confidentially. What I would do is to walk you through the sections of the form. Personal details and contact information. You would note on the screen that we have last name, so it's important that you enter your last name, the first name, middle name is optional, but you can include that as well. Passport number is very important. The gender, date of birth, place of birth, nationality, email, cell phone number, and persons can actually enter, if they have a WhatsApp, they could also enter their WhatsApp number. Now we go to the next section as it relates to the emergency contact. Now we would want you to provide an emergency contact, preferably someone in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, for which we can contact if there's an emergency. So all information here is required: the contact name, the email address of the person, emergency phone number, and the relation. The next section relates to residency. Your residential address while you are in St. Kitts and Nevis must be completed. as well as your residency status. For example, your petition, your division, you have a work permit, your residential, etc. Country of residence, the residential address of your current location. So for example, if you're in San Antonio, Texas, you want to put that particular address here in the residential address in the current location where you're at. Reason for leaving St. Kitts and Nevis. So for persons who are in St. Kitts and had to leave perhaps for study overseas or vacation, you'd want to select that information. And if you are studying, then you want to indicate the educational institution for which you are studying. The next section looks at the travel history. Now we want you to identify the different countries that you would have traveled in the last, it's saying 6 weeks, but we want to cover the last set of travel that you would have done when you were overseas. So US or Puerto Rico, for example, you would select each country and it would be listed directly below. The date of last departure from St. Kitts and your intended date of return to St. Kitts. In the next section, we look at additional passengers. The additional passengers section should only be added if there are other persons traveling with you. So if there are other persons traveling with you, you would click on the plus sign. If not, you would leave it at 0. Flight information. For the flight information, we want to identify all the connecting flights required to return to St. Kitts. If at this time you wouldn't have a booking for a flight, you would not complete this section. However, if you do, you will click on the plus sign and then you can add the flight information. For the flight information, you would have to enter the flight number, the airline name, the port of embarkation and port of disembarkation, as well as the date of arrival and the time of arrival. The next section of the form referred to the preferred quarantine location. When it comes to the preferred quarantine location, we are asking persons to contact either OTI or Royal St. Kitts Hotel, which are the 2 designated quarantine locations as of now. You'd have to contact the number and make a booking. The next section looks at the upload documents. One of the documents that we would be required to upload is a passport data page. Here you would upload the passport data page, and once you've uploaded it, it's going to note the name of the document. Note here that we accept only the PNG file, JPEG, or GIF files. The next step is to download the blank form for the port health surveillance or notice of quarantine or isolation form. So the first step is you download a blank form, you print it off, complete it, scan, and re-upload. At the end of the process, you would click on the submit button. Once you click on the submit button, you would be directed to a confirmation message which will notify you that emails will be sent to your email address, that's for the main contact, to keep you updated on the status of your application. Just to note that the task force is going to review the application process and review your details that you submitted. Once a decision has been made within about 48 hours of submitting your application, then you would receive periodic updates. For example, if your application has been approved, you will receive an email notification that your application has been approved, and you'll be advised to update your travel information as it relates to your flight bookings. And you would also be informed that you would have to submit the COVID-19 test. That would have to be a negative test that would be submitted. So that is more or less the end of the process for the online submission form. Thank you.